tonight. Federal Ministry of Interior assures Anambra of support for good governance. Stakeholders call for improved relationship between security agencies and civilians. INEC to suspend voter registration August 17th. And on the foreign scene, Ethiopia appoints first ambassador to Eritrea in 20 years. Good evening and welcome to the evening news. I am Ifeyinwa Arono. The federal government says it targets to recruit 6,000 personnel for the Nigeria Prison Authority in the ongoing recruitment exercise. The Minister of Interior, retired Lieutenant General Abdulrahman Dambazao, disclosed this when he visited Governor Willie Obiano at the Governor's Lodge, Amobia. Government House correspondent Kenechukwu Former filed in the report.
Lieutenant General Dambazao revealed that the recruitment initiative is part of efforts by the federal government to ensure that the Nigerian prison service meets minimum United Nations standard for the treatment and rehabilitation of prisoners, describing the inability of prisoners to appear in court to prove their cases as a major challenge. In that light, the minister revealed that the ministry has procured mobility vehicles to convey prisoners to court, while just as the federal government is working out modalities to have courts established near prisons as to save costs. On the issue of congested prisons across the country, the minister said his ministry has mapped out strategies to permanently address the anomaly, which has been approved by the Federal Executive Council and forwarded to the National Economic Council for further action. Lieutenant General Dambazao, while thanking Governor Obiano for the reception, assured that the federal government will continue to partner the state in relevant areas to meet the demands of good governance from the people.
We want to thank you very much. This events will come up tomorrow, God's willing, and we do hope that the state and the federal government will continue to partner with this.
Earlier, while speaking after a closed-door meeting with the minister, Governor Obiano explained that the minister was in the state to commission 2 erosion sites done by the federal government in Nobi and Alo, and expressed appreciation for the intervention.
Tomorrow, at Nobi and Alo, the federal government will be handing over, or rather commissioning, will be commissioning the erosion sites that they worked on for the people of Idembili South, local government. So I'm very, very happy that that has happened, and I'm happy to receive the.
The management and staff of the newly birthed radio station in the state, Wazobia FM, has paid a courtesy call on the Commissioner for Information and Public Enlightenment, Mr. Sidon Adenuba. Correspondent Kenechukwu Chukwudi was at the visit and reports that they were taxed on professionalism.
The head of broadcast and operations of the new radio station, Mr. Ugo Enwereji, who led the team on the visit, said he decided to have a foothold in the state and in the southeast, given that Anambra is the commercial nerve center of the southeast, especially Onitsha, where the radio station is domiciled. Mr. Enwereji, who pointed that the radio station, which operates on the frequency of 93.7, will help tell the story of Anambra State and that of the southeast to the world, for a lot is happening in the state in terms of infrastructure and security, but still underreported.
Coming to sale to governor, management commissioner, so we can introduce our services and what to protect for
Welcoming the Wazobia team, the commissioner, Mr. Sidon Adenuba, noted that they would be the 21st radio station to operate in the state in the last couple of years, which goes a long way to talk about the peaceful and investment-friendly nature of the state, which the governor has strived to put in place. He enumerated the achievements of the Obiano-led government, especially in terms of security and healthy business environment for investors.
You are the 21st radio station in Anambra, it's currently. A few years ago, there used to be only 3 or 4. So in 3 years, the number has skyrocketed. It simply means one thing: growing investor confidence in our states. People are coming in. People know Anambra State is the fast developing state in Nigeria after Lagos. And at the rate we are progressing, I think we're going to give Lagos a good run for the money.
The visit also featured presentation of souvenirs to the commissioner. From the Jerome Udoji Secretariat in Oka, it's been Kenechukwu Chukwudi for ABS News.
Well, over 40 youth corps members serving in Enugu community in Njikoka Council area yesterday received succor from the town union executives of the community who donated food items to them. The items were presented to the corps members at the Enugu Civic Center. Correspondent Ngozi Obileri covered the event and now reports.
Items donated to the corps members serving at Ide and Okutalokwe secondary schools, Enugu respectively, were bags of rice, bag of beans, and gari. Presenting the items, the President General, Enugu Community Development Union, Mr. Boni Ozonkwaku, said the move was in line with the decision of the town union to ensure a better welfare to both indigenous and non-indigenous living in the community. Mr. Ozonkwaku added that they were aware of the cost of living in the country today, and since the corps members are in their area for the growth and development of the community, they deemed it fit to give them a sense of belonging.
This is to tell you that we share in your plight and we love you. We want you to be part of this community. So we know what you are passing through. We knew the situation that we faced in our days, and it's not too far from what you are facing. Where I served, at least I was assisted by the community. And I also believe that some of my colleagues were also assisted by the host community. And what we are promising is that this assistance will continue.
Responding on behalf of others, the corps liaison officer for Ide Secondary School, Mr. Kevin Oroboso, and his Okutalokwe counterpart, Mr. Christian Eze, appreciated the community for the love shown them and promised to do their best to impact positively on the lives of children of the community.
And we are very grateful, we feel very happy, and we're very grateful. The expect of me is to actually serve with my best and do actually my best in the community which I'm serving. With that, actually, we are doing better. So with these little people, we are very sure we are ready to impact our world and make a difference.
I feel belonged. Now I've known that the community, the people, they care about us, and at least from now we'll buckle up, to impart knowledge to the children of this.
Presentation of the items to the corps members formed high points of the event. From Enugu Civic Center, I am Ngozi Obileri for ABS News.
The need for improved, robust relationship between security agencies and civil citizens has been stressed. Participants at a town hall meeting organized by Conrad Adenauer Stefton Foundation KS in collaboration with the National Assembly House Committee on the Army and the National Orientation Agency NOA, decried the prevailing mistrust and hostility between security agencies and civilians in the country. Correspondent Emmanuel Chibata was at the meeting and now completes the story.
The meeting, which was held in Oka, was attended by representatives of various security agencies, traditional institutions, the religious, academia, government functionaries, and the media. The meeting was also aimed at exchanging ideas and charting ways for the promotion of a cordial relationship between security agencies and civilians. In a paper presentation on enhancing cordial relationship between citizens and security agencies in Nigeria, the State Director, NUA, Barrister Charles Nwoji, explained that lack of training for citizens on civic responsibilities, absence of specialized training for security personnel on relations with the civic populace, and unbalanced reportage of incidents and conduct of security personnel involved in internal security operations by the media are some of the issues affecting the unity of the security agencies and the populace. Barrister Nwoji called for the establishment of a robust synergy between military, paramilitary, security, and other relevant organizations to achieve sustainable and beneficial relations with the civil populace.
Interagency cooperation between these two organizations is very minimal. It's very, very minimal. If they were to cooperate fully, if they were to assist each other, support each other, sit down and have what in the US is called the Homeland Security Unit. I'm telling you, they will go places.
Contributing, the managing director of the ABS, Nze Ushenwora, represented by Mrs. Ekwi Ajide, who spoke on the issue of unbalanced reportage, said that the security agencies should allow the media do their job as regards security matters without restraint.
Sometimes it is not the fault of the media if the military is misrepresented. The military themselves does not even give the media the opportunity to come close.
In a remark, the Deputy Director, NOAA, Mr. Joseph Ushendu, reiterated the need for adequate cooperation between citizens and security agencies in the country. Others who spoke at the event including Reverend Kingsley Chukwukamma, Professor Frank Collins Okafor, Deputy Corps Commander of Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC Oka Chukwuka Enya, and Assistant Controller Customs House Onisha, Mr. J.C. Awodu, among others, said that all hands must be on deck to promote confidence of the people in security agencies so as to ensure overall development of the country. In Oka, Emmanuel Shibata, ABS News.
And now to electoral matters. Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has alerted members of the public that the ongoing continuous voter registration CVR exercise will be suspended on August 17. Head Voter Education and Publicity in the Commission in Anambra State, Mr. Leo Nkedife, in a statement said that the exercise would also be suspended in all the 21 local government areas of the state. For details, it's over now to our studios.
He said the suspension was to enable the Commission have enough time to process the register and produce permanent voters' cards before the 2019 general election. Mr. Nkedife, who explained that the exercise will continue after the general election, noted that the collection of permanent voters' cards would continue until February 8. Mr. Nkedife appealed to all citizens who are yet to register or have lost their cards to avail themselves of another opportunity to register. The publicity head urged those that want to transfer their PVC from one location to another, or those whose PVC is defaced, to use the opportunity to update them now that the exercise is ongoing. He commended Anambra for their cooperation, just as he cautioned against double registration or use of fake PVCs during election, and cautioned the electorate, especially youth, not to allow themselves to be used for election malpractices.
And now for business news, here is Samuel Ogugwa.
The Central Bank of Nigeria says it has recovered over 65 billion naira from commercial banks in the country for wrongful deductions and charges from customers' deposits and other transactions in the last 6 years. The Acting Director, Corporate Communications, CBN, Mr. Isaac Okarafo, stated this yesterday on the sidelines of a two-day fair with the team promoting financial stability and economic development for stakeholders in Asaba, Delta State. Okarafo explained that the recovery was made between 2012 and now, stressing that the funds has since been returned to customers who heeded to complain of wrongful charges and deductions by commercial banks, adding that hawking of various denominations of the naira was an offense punishable under the CBN Act of 2005, and warned that the Apex Bank will not tolerate the breach of its act, and called on those involved, particularly its staff members, to desist from the practice as they would be dismissed if caught. He, however, blamed the police for lack of prosecution of offenders who were caught hawking naira during various raids in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Onitsha, Ibadan, and other cities.
This business news is brought to you courtesy of Ezebo Microfinance Bank Limited, formerly Umudioka Community Bank, Afigo Market, Umudioka. We bridge the gap.
A newborn baby was at the early hours of Wednesday discovered wrapped in a black polythene bag and dumped inside the drainage along Enugu-Onitsha Expressway by Romchi Park, Opiweka. Passers-by, hawkers and drivers gathered around the area to have a look at the baby, who was already dead. Commenting on the incident, Mr. Ejike Omeke, who works at a park along the axis, said he was working when a barrow pusher alerted him that the content in the nylon was a baby, adding that the barrow pusher went into the drainage and brought out the nylon for them to examine the baby, who was already dead and was stabbed at the side of his stomach. He condemned the Callous Act and opined that people must be mindful of the kind of life they lead. In their separate reactions, Mrs. Uchen Obiora and Ngozi decried the act, saying that perpetrators of such dastardly act should have taken the baby to community children's homes rather than killing it. They advised mothers to monitor their female children and give them the basic training to guard against unwanted pregnancies. And finally, from the foreign scene, reports say Ethiopia has appointed its first ambassador to Eritrea in 20 years, in the latest sign of rapprochement after a border war. An online report from the state-affiliated news agency said Redwan Hussein, formerly Ethiopian ambassador to Ireland, had become Addis Ababa's representative in Asmara, since signing an agreement in Asmara on July 9 to restore ties. Eritrean and Ethiopian leaders have moved swiftly to sweep away 2 decades of hostility since conflict erupted between the two neighbors in the Horn of Africa in 1998. The rapprochement was triggered by the coming into office of Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in April, who announced he wanted to implement a peace deal that ended the war. Both leaders have visited each other, and Eritrea's Isaias Afwerki this week reopened his country's embassy in Addis Ababa. Ethiopia's national carrier, Ethiopia Airlines, on Wednesday made its first flight to Asmara in 2 decades and was greeted by dancers waving flags and flowers as families separated by the war and the ensuing hostilities made an emotional renewal. And that's the news at this time, but don't forget that you can listen to news and programs on ABS from any part of the world by logging on to our website, www.absradiotv.com. Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ABSRadioTelevision. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ABSRadioTV. And now on the main points. Federal Ministry of Interior has assured the Anambra of support for good governance. Stakeholders have called for improved relationship between security agencies and civilians. INEC is to suspend voter registration on August 17. And on the foreign scene, Ethiopia has appointed its first ambassador to Eritrea in 20 years. But that's the evening news. I am Ife Yunwa Arono. Thank you so much for watching and good night.